So if you were to take that system away, then what's an ideal system? What would replace it?
It's an enormous question. Let's look at this from an evolutionary standpoint again. Every element that's happened in human society up until this point in time, every social system has been based around scarcity. It's based around the assumption that there really isn't enough to go around, right? You go back to Adam Smith, you go back to David Ricardo, you go back to Malthus, specifically Malthus, who in population theory firmly ingrained this stuff. You hear rhetoric across the board from mainstream economists that this is based on the fact that we can't provide enough for everyone, therefore we have to restrict. This is no longer true. When it comes to actual sustainable life-supporting goods, when it comes to meeting the needs of the human population, maintaining a high level of public health, and of course assuring sustainability, which you cannot talk about production in any society without talking about sustainability, because that's the long-term inhibitor when it comes to the laws of nature, we can actually create an abundance now. See, I would argue for the market and all the things that you and many others talk about if I wasn't aware of the fact that it's no longer needed with the state of science and technology. To alleviate the corruption, you have to get rid of the psychological place of it. You have to, everyone's the same, basically. Some people are not just more corrupt than others, they become that way. There's a reason, just to throw this in there psychologically, that those who have the highest wages in the world donate less to poverty, percentage-wise. There was a study done fairly recently that found that the most ruthless and the most wealthy people in the world, the most wealthy were the most ruthless. They were most likely to cut people off in traffic. And this is all common sense to us. We know that the cutthroat mentality is there. But the point is it's no longer necessary. Do you want to resolve global problems? Do you want to resolve poverty? We can overnight. Do you want to resolve corruption? Do you want to resolve the fact that we have ecological destabilization coming out every single angle with almost every life support in decline? We can. But it's going to take overriding the current social system and moving on.
But I need to know how.
Okay.
So I agree with you that, if you breed a certain culture, you will get that culture. So if you reward and incentivize greed, you will get more greed.
Yes.
And same with corruption, etc. So I don't believe that the way we do things is the only way we can do things. And I believe that there is a better way and we can get there. Now, I need to know more about the specifics though. So for example, if you say, okay, we have enough food to feed the world. That's true, we do. The question is, how do you allocate it? So that's what I throw at you.
Well, let's think about allocation. What is the point of any allocation in a market system? It's to get needs to people, really. It's something that doesn't really happen. As every major World Health Organization has stated that it's not the food, it's not the nutrients, it's not the calories that's in a deficit, it's the fact that there's not enough money in these environments for these poor people to have resolution. There's not enough money to create the desalination plants to bring clean water. So the problem is economic. So in allocation, what does it mean? It means meeting the needs of the human population. Why should we give birth to anyone on this planet that we cannot take care of? And the fact of the matter is we can. So that's a huge subject. I could go on a massive spiel about how an entirely new social system could be generated that takes in all the needs of the entire human population at once. And probably the first thing that comes out of anyone listening to this will be communism, because that's a general reaction, but that is not what it is at all. It's actually making a society that isn't an anti-society, which is what we have now.
Okay, now, I believe you when you say it's not communism, and I think it's a very simplistic to think of it that way. Obviously, you're not in favor of capitalism as we have it now, right?
Well, I'll say I'm not in favor of this idea that a competitive system where everyone's out for itself is the way that you can have a healthy society.
Okay. So, again, I'm trying to wrap my mind around how it would work. So,
sure.
Okay, so it's not like, hey, we've got all the food in the world, and hey, Bob, if you don't want to work, take a load off and we'll get it to you or whatever. I'm describing the stereotype of communism. Okay.
Sure.
So, but how does it work? I mean, so you would have to reallocate resources to some degree. Wouldn't you have to take more from the rich to be able to feed the people in Africa, et cetera?
Well, no, that's another unfortunate straw man that's built up. I'm not accusing you of that, by the way. But people often say, well, you're just going to take stuff from everybody else. That's not right. Transition to a new social system is, of course, not an easy thing to think about. And we could talk at length about that. But let's think about it more of a direct philosophical, technical level. Let's put it in layers. Human needs are human needs, and public health is public health. Public health can be defined as both your nutritional health and also your mental health, your state of mind. The lack of conflict in society is also an attribute of public health and preventive medicine. If you look at this from the standpoint of all the layers that create what your daily life means, begin with food. Food creation can exist in much higher states than they can now, and they can be localized, removing economic consequences that we have of the current market economy, such as globalization, which is very destructive, high energy, completely wasteful, exploiting labor. We can concentrate food production regionally all across the world in very simple technical manners, such as vertical farms. Vertical farms can be put on the coast of Los Angeles, run with desalination processes and nutrient extraction processes coming from the ocean, and we could grow hundreds of tons of organic nutrient vegetable food, enough to meet the actual protein generating food too, all sorts of things that can be grown as well, actually meet the high nutritional quality of everyone in Los Angeles. Locally, no importing. Now I'm not advocating that's all we do, but I'm giving you the example. So what that means is that you could have, for example, in transition, and I'm jumping ahead, is all food free in Los Angeles of this nature to everyone, to meet everyone's need, period, because it's in abundance. No one's going to hoard it and steal it, even in a market system, because it's going to go to waste. It's available to everyone, and you would see an enormous increase in public health and less strife in the community. I could go on a big tangent on that, but we'll stop there.
Okay, so